Greetings, comrades. I had some problems with the live stream. My internet is experiencing problems in my region, or my area, my general area, and so I'm going to have to do this pre-recorded video instead of a live stream. Now, as far as the live streams go, I try to schedule them, but obviously, and you can tell by this video, obviously things don't necessarily go as planned, and when there's nice weather, I like to be outside and be working on my alternate channel, doing the bird nerd thing, and so it's going to be harder to schedule these live streams, but you know, it's just one of those things where I'm going to try to do the live streams and join if you can, and I hope that I don't experience internet problems. So anyway, enough of that. I do want to talk about Father Altman, and before I do that, I want to talk about in the Novus Ordo Rite. Today is Pope Paul VI feast day. Now, he was canonized as saint just a few years ago by Pope Francis, and Pope Paul VI was instrumental in implementing the Novus Ordo. Well, he implemented it and banned the Latin Mass. He also redid all 7 sacraments. He removed the oath against modernism in the ordination of priests, the sacrament of ordination, and he removed the St. Michael prayer after Mass that was said since Pope Leo XIII instituted it in the late 1800s. And then he also implemented communion in the hand basically across the world. So Pope Paul VI it's his feast day in the Novus Ordo Rite, and that's that. And I think that I do want to talk about the canonization process later at some point, but not today. Today we'll talk about Father James Altman. He's raised a lot of money, and he's raised over $250,000 for his legal expenses as of the recording of this video. And you know, people are promoting him. People are saying, please donate to his legal fund. He's getting support, verbal support from Bishop Strickland, Father Mark Goring, Father Richard Heilman, among others. Plenty of other people support him. And so it's a really big showdown with him and his bishop, as his bishop has announced his intentions to remove Father Altman from his parish. And his bishop is Bishop William Callahan of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Now, Father Altman in one of his videos said that Bishop Callahan said Altman was ineffective. And Father Altman said, well, what do you mean by ineffective? I've raised all this money in my parish. He says that he matched last year's envelope collection of $212,000, and the plate collection more than doubled from $24,000 to $56,000, and the diocesan annual appeal rebate has doubled since he took over as pastor of the parish, from $53,000 to $100,000. And so, being ineffective, I certainly wouldn't be ineffective in terms of raising money. Now, and I want to contrast that to the USCCB, or compare and contrast, whatever, because Brett the Fog said, well, you know, maybe the bishops can take some lessons from Father Altman's fundraising tactics. Well, the bishops, they do pretty good fundraising themselves. Catholic Charities USA, as a collective, group, they received over $1.5 billion from the United States government. In I think that was 2018. I did independent research on that. 1.5 billion. I think that estimates have put it closer to 2 billion, but that's just my independent research that I could verify. 1.5 billion. And as for the USCCB, they received significant funding from the U.S. government. In 2019, their most recent financial statements were from 2019, and it says they received over $50 million from the U.S. government for immigration funding. And because of this, or not because of this, but it's interesting to note that a news item this week was that the U.S. bishops are taking more of a priority on immigration. I'll read from an article that I will link in the description. The article says, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops will host an emergency meeting with prelates from Central America as well as Vatican representatives June 1st and 2nd in Chicago to set forth a path for the U.S. Church's response to immigration. This meeting will include representatives from the Vatican's Migrants and Refugees section, bishops from Central America and Mexico, as well as U.S. Cardinals Blaise Cupich of Chicago, Joseph Tobin of Newark, New Jersey, U.S. Bishop Mark Seitz of El Paso, Texas, and Auxiliary Bishop Mario Dorsonville of Washington, among others. That's Washington, D.C. And notice that, well, aside from Cupich and Tobin, the two most powerful cardinals and potentially two most corrupt in the United States, Auxiliary Bishop Dorsonville of D.C., the three of these four bishops from the USCCB are not even close to the border. I mean, they might be close to the northern border, but not the southern border, which is what we're talking about when we talk about immigration. And then Bishop Seitz of El Paso, Texas, is a very well-known liberal. And so, of course, he's going to fit in with that group. But three of the four, that's pretty sad. And then Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez, president of the USCCB, is also expected to address the gathering. So they're trying to pull in Gomez and make this an urgent priority for him. And, you know, he's an immigrant himself. So, of course, he's going to try to help them out here. Now, this is an urgent, an emergency meeting. That's what it says. And isn't it a coincidence that not too long ago, Cupich and Tobin met with the Vatican in an attempt to quash the USCCB's effort to deny Biden and pro-abortion politicians communion. And now there's this emergency meeting about immigration. And they're pulling Gomez in on it. And Gomez is the one who is leading the USCCB and trying to come up with some kind of statement for the USCCB in regards to denying Joe Biden communion. But there's a twofold intentions that I think on the part of Cupich and Tobin, and the first one is just exactly that, to undermine the pro-life effort of the USCCB. They're trying to make immigration an urgent priority at the USCCB, as opposed to a president who calls himself Catholic and supports abortion very strongly. And he has also performed an LMNOP marriage, which would put him very, very far outside of the church. But, you know, Cupich and Tobin, they want to try to undermine that in an attempt for the second intention here, to secure more funding for the USCCB and immigration. Because if you notice, well, I don't know, I've been talking about it for a while, but the USCCB could count on 70 to 80 million from the U.S. government every year before Trump and after Trump, and you could tell the number has decreased, the amount has decreased to 50 million from the USCCB. So that's that. You can obviously see, I see I read between the lines here. You know, I see what's going on here, and hopefully you do as well, that Cupich and Tobin, they're meeting with the Vatican. They came up with a plan, and this is their plan, to undermine the pro-life attempt and to make other topics more of a priority at the USCCB. Now, I do want to get to comments, and because this isn't live, it's kind of like, alright, whatever, but there were a lot of haters on my Father Casey video. More and more people are finding it, and they're saying, oh, well, he's not a modernist, whatever. Alright, well, alright, make your own decisions on that, but the facts are the facts, and I feel like I stated them pretty appropriately. There was a comment from Gustavo G. on the video I posted of Bishop McElroy at the USCCB meeting a few years ago, opposing the USCCB's pro-life statement. This guy, it's a longer comment, but I thought it was pretty interesting, and it certainly shows what's going on in the minds of a lot of the lay people. Gustavo says, the first time I ever had a chance to listen in on the USCCB, when I was very green as far as my living more fully and actively my Catholic faith, I was excited and enthusiastic to be able to listen in on what I thought was an effective force and conference on evangelization and catechesis. I was greatly disappointed. I was seriously let down. I felt it was a sham, cold, dead, empty, and devoid of life of the spirit that I thought would and should be when the bishops of the Catholic Church meet, like a boring business meeting dealing with administration and not the saving of souls. seems to be that. I had a thought. An individual bishop is not required to participate in the USCCB to fulfill his duties unto God, is he? He can just opt out, right? Do his own thing in his own diocese unto his own better judgment for the good of his own people, right? And I think any U.S. bishop can opt out of the USCCB. I think he is right. Now, I think that would hurt them financially because some of these dioceses receive money from the Catholic Home Missions Appeal, and they would lose out on that money if they decide to leave the USCCB, especially the bishop in smaller dioceses like Tyler, Texas. Bishop Strickland would leave, you'd have to forfeit some of that money. And so, but the dioceses do pay taxes to the USCCB. So I wonder how that would offset. I would imagine the smaller dioceses it's kind of like a socialist kind of like a socialist process where the smaller dioceses they can write off some of their taxes to the USCCB, or they receive them back in USCCB funds plus more. So I think it just really comes down to money. But I would really be happy to see a lot of these bishops leave the USCCB and collectively say, we don't care what they say. We're gonna do what we want to do in our own diocese. And the problem is they probably get removed by the Vatican for insubordination and lack of synodality. That could be a possibility. But then, of course, there are canonical there could be a canonical process to go through that as well. Anyway, there were a few comments on the Rainbow Bishops video I wanted to share. First one is from Michael Getz. He said, "We should not be worried about this. Actually, we should be glad. Didn't Christ tell us these things must come to pass? They are the birth pangs of the new creation. The evil that was hidden is being brought to light for all to see. Choose wisely like the 10 virgins and keep your lamps filled. Things will get very dark. Take heart. The Master cometh." And so I agree with that. The bishops that are, we're finding more information out about them, what they support, and it's good to know as opposed to not know. So now we can identify them and we can, move forward accordingly and ask a lot of these bishops to resign if they're faithless. And I do want to move on to a comment from Patty. On the same video, he says, "Correct, John. Here we have a large basket of very nasty and dangerous vipers. You can hear the hissing of these snakes getting louder and louder each day. This is because they are terrified now that we all know the truth about them. Soon there will be nowhere to hide. Soon these people will pay for their part in the attempted destruction of the Catholic Church. We're watching." And I agree with Patty with that. We are watching these bishops, and we're going to speak out against the modernists whenever we discover them. Speak out whenever you see these bishops preaching false teaching, because we are the laity and we will not be silent. Okay.